Hey, welcome to episode 190 of Fresh Air at 5. In this episode this week, I wasn't feeling well, so I had not been walking, but I did listen to podcasts, and so I'm just showing that I can continue my learning even if it's not in my regular mode of learning by walking while I listen to podcasts. Listen to a number of great podcasts, Eric and Nick on the EdTech Throwdown. I listened to the Elemental Educator and the Easy EdTech podcast, Educational Duct Tape, a number of different podcasts this week while I was doing different activities around the house. And today I finally got out for a walk on the Friday that this is coming out. So, So without further ado, jump into episode 190. Appreciate it so much. And you might not hear from me next week because I'm going to be out of cell service and we are going on a kayaking trip for a week with our buds. We'll talk to you soon. Have a fabulous weekend and thanks for listening to Fresh Air 5. Make sure you subscribe and share on with others so that they can listen to the podcast too. Peace. Bye.
Hi, I'm Sam Fessich from the EduMagic Podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Fresh Air at 5, the podcast. I'm your host, Brian Carpenter, coming to you every week from Abbotsford, which is about 45 minutes east of Vancouver, British Columbia, on the west coast of Canada. Fresh Air at 5 is my regular attempt to get some fresh air by walking about my neighborhood, which is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Stolo people, the Simath First Nation and Mathwee First Nation. I consume podcast content while I walk, then reflect on this content in an unedited video, which I post on my X, formerly known as Twitter, channel every day. This podcast is the collection of the audio taken from those daily selfie videos over the course of a week, Monday to Friday. So let's jump into my listening and learning this past week.
Hey, PLN, it's August 5, 2024. That is BC Day here in British Columbia. And I'm celebrating British Columbia early this morning. Actually, no, I got up early because my wife and friend, Joanne, are going backpacking for 5 days. And I had to get her over to Joanne's house. So say, hey, Joanne and Wendy, have a great backpacking trip. And I am now privileged to be able to celebrate BC Day, enjoying BC before the temperature gets above 18 or 19 degrees Celsius, where it is currently right now. All right, this morning I listened to Season 3, Episode 90 of Seeing to Lead podcast with Chris Jones, as he has on guest Patricia Urbe, who is the author of a book called Building Bonds with Students. I think it's called that. It'll be in the show notes for sure. Actually, you can just go into this episode and get the exact title. But Patricia talks about 4 facets of relationship building, being knowing who you are, your branding, bonding with students, finding connections with students. The third thing is building on those relationships. And then when you are moving your way along, it's about reflecting on relationships and how have you done? How is it going? And do you need to do anything better? Quite likely, because we can always improve. So that's a model. She has a book about that she's written as her kind of legacy in education. She says, I really appreciate hearing you say that, Patricia, because we go through our careers and what are we leaving behind? We have a trail of things that are behind us, but are we being intentional about what we are leaving behind? All right, Chris, thanks so much. People, friends, take a listen to this podcast by Chris Jones, episode 90 of Seeing to Lead, and hear what Patricia has to say about the importance of relationship building. Foundational, so very important. Without relationships, education will not make it through very well. Okay, bye. PLN, August 6, 2024. I'm on the couch. I've seen my doctor, and I need to get some rest, and I need to get the new meds he got in me, and so that I can get healthy from this respiratory thing that's been bugging me for the past couple weeks. On today, I noted that Teachers on Fire, episode 279, with Lisa Green on smartphones and its impact on learning in our classrooms and schools, came out. That was recorded on Saturday morning, this past Saturday, with Tim Cavey on his YouTube channel. So I listened to that live, and I'm bringing you my reflections on it right now, because it's really important that we be mindful about banning compared to education and, regulation. And we need to, talk to students about the impact of cell phones on their brains and how distracting these devices can be. As you can see, I'm wearing my cell phone right now, and I'm fully supportive of having cell phones around, but we need to talk about putting them away so that we can be efficient at work and getting work done. The conversation moved along from cell phone banning to other areas of concern, such as artificial intelligence in our classroom and having these tools that we need to educate our students about. Changing the way that we do assessments and not have it as a single point assessment, but have it as a multimodal assessment plan in your classroom so that students can be evaluated efficiently and properly. Getting to know your students in relationship is a primary importance so that we can know when they are and when they are not doing the work themselves. All right, Tim and Lisa, I appreciate the conversation. Thanks so much. And take a listen to episode 279 of Fresh Air at 5 because it's informative and great to hear. Appreciate. Have a fabulous day. Bye. Hey, PLN, August 8, 2024, and I'm out doing some yard work today. It's pretty warm, about 27 degrees mid-afternoon. I listened to the EdTech Throwdown, episode 168 with Geis and Johnson, as Nick and Eric bring us the necessary replacement ideas for Flip, as Flip is going away from its free model and actually discontinuing it for general use. Guys, this is one of those episodes that I haven't actually been jealous because our school district has gone to Microsoft as our tools instead of Google tools. And we got out of that, and I've been sad. Every time I listen to you guys, I've been sad. But this time I'm actually happy, not that we are gaining. Well, we are kind of gaining because they're incorporating Flipgrid camera into Microsoft Teams, which I use all the time with my students. But the fact that as a Microsoft school, we can still use, and district, we can still use this Microsoft tool. I appreciate your ideas about replacements and how we can have kind of video discussion responses from students. Flip was excellent for doing that. And that is a thing that we are going to be missing generally in our ed tech spaces, for having students have video responses and being able to respond to others. I love the tool. So I have to check out now. Thanks for letting me know that it's going to be part of Teams. I didn't know that. So I will have to check that out and start using that more with my students. You mentioned Padlet. Great idea. Wakelet. And if the Flip camera continues in Wakelet, that's great. And now that I hear that Wakelet is owned by Microsoft, that's likely to continue. The Canva ideas and having students use Google Slides to put videos on. There are many ways that you can have video discussions. It just has to teach students more ed tech literacy than just simply pushing the record button, and it is done. So thanks, gentlemen. Take a listen to this episode for yourself. And that's episode 169, EdTech Throwdown. Bye. One more thing for August 8, 2024, listen to the Easy Ed Tech podcast this afternoon as Monica Burns brings us an episode called QR Code Hacks for Everyday Teachers. And Monica, I was excited to hear and see your thoughts about QR codes and how we can use them in our classroom. I've been using QR codes in my classroom and work and even in my community service around as for many years because it gives us an opportunity to redirect parents and students to things such as Google Sites that I use for my daughter's choir. In my newsletter, our school newsletters, I do the editing for that, and I put in QR codes for video content in there to share video content that my students have created, and also, our recent podcasts that my students have built. I link those out to their podcast hosting sites with QR codes. It's an opportunity that you can do print work and yet share links in an easy manner. I use Bitly for my QR code generator for free. I don't use this paid subscription, and I've been using it for years. It serves me well. So Bitly is another suggestion that Monica didn't mention, bit.ly, and create an account. And he even helps you track the number of clicks on your QR codes and the short links that it makes. So Bitly is actually a short link creator with the ability to make a QR code. I do that for my podcast, for the playlist out of Spotify. So I will build the playlist in Spotify, and then I go to Bitly to make a short link to that playlist and create a QR code there that I put and share in the titles, actually my graphics for Fresh Air at 5, my podcast. So there's lots of ways that you can use QR codes. One day we had our choir programs not printed for our choir concert, and at the very last minute, like 20 minutes before, generated a QR code to a digital version, able to share the program with the whole audience very quickly. Thanks, Monica. Take a listen to episode 289, Easy Ed Tech Podcast. The last thing for August 8, 2024, I listened to the Elemental Educator podcast with Tyler Como out of Alberta, Canada. And he brings us an episode where he talks with Danny Kofke about empowering financial freedom. I think that's the name of the title. It has to do with budgeting, living frugally, and living well within your means. And so I really appreciated hearing the two of you talk as I listened. There was great advice in there about living within your means and doing what you say you're going to do. It's about the disciplines, the little consistent disciplines that we can do every day that allows us to save money, not the intense and humongous things that can happen, but consistently being disciplined as opposed to the intensity of discipline. So, get started doing little things to save some money. I like the idea of a plan for a budget. I struggle with the budget, but I need to get onto that a little bit more and keep an eye on it, even quarterly, to make sure that we're on track for our saving goals and how we're spending our money. All right, listen to the Elemental Educator with Tyler Como, and thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Danny, for your work that you've done here and sharing with us. Bye. Hey, PLN, it's August 9, 2024, and I'm sitting in a chair after I've just got back from a 3-kilometer walk around my neighborhood. It's currently about 24 degrees and really humid, so I'm now resting. I've been sick this week, so if you've paid attention to my dailies on X, you will know that I have not been walking because I've been recovering from a respiratory issue. Not COVID, I don't think, but it's still just bugging me. But I'm getting better. We are planning on a kayak trip starting this Sunday out towards the Pacific Ocean, on the ocean between Vancouver Island and the mainland. So we're heading out there. Got some other things to do. Well, we're going to go and relax and be at some campsites you can only get to by boat. So that'll be pretty nice. All right. Today, as I walked, I listened to episode 109 of the Educational Duct Tape Podcast with Jake Miller, and Jake brings us the voices of the duct tapers in response to are reflections on episode 108 and 107 of Educational Duct Tape. So Jake's format's changing. He is going to be asking us for our thoughts after each podcast listen that we do every second week. And in the in-between weeks, he will put together the compilation of our voices. I got to hear my voice twice. Thanks, Jake, for putting in the 107 and 108 reflections. And it was really good because, you know, it's one thing to hear you. You got great ideas. But as a community, hashtag better together, we can learn from each other. There's some things in Magic School I need to go look at because there are rubric generators, data table generators, things like that you know, we should be aware of so that we can provide content for our students. All right. I heard from Eric, Geis, Vicky, Heupel, and Cindy, and some others on your podcast today. So shout outs to them, big hand clapping, and congratulations on being back at podcasting. Love it so much. If you don't listen to Educational Duct Tape, you need to do so because Jake's got a lot of great stuff to say. Peace out. Happy Friday. Bye. All right. The last thing for August 9, 2024. I just listened to Seeing to Lead. I think it's episode 91 probably of season 3. I didn't look at the episode number before, but it's called What's Your Signal? And Chris, I really appreciate your thoughts on talking about what signals we give off and what people see of us and how we do that in different spaces and at different times. You know, how do we behave as a dad at home? Do our kids know who we are really? Or, you know, are they getting a fake you? Our families around us, our, you know, colleagues at work. Are you actually who you are or just putting on a show to get something that you can't live up to because it's not actually who you are? It's important that we be honest, you know, and as I do presentations and things like that, I try to make sure that I am honest in how I deliver things, talking here on X and Twitter and on my podcast, because it's really important that you know that Brian Carpenter is who you get, and I believe I'm delivering Brian Carpenter. I went to a conference in California at spring break. People are, you know, glad to see me, and it was great to meet them and see that they are who they say they are. I like that. So yes, be who you are. Good thoughts for reflection as I go into the weekend and be with my family and get ready for a kayaking trip that's coming. So, without further ado, that's all. Happy Friday and take care of yourself this weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye.
I appreciate you giving me a listen as I've created this podcast experience for you. It's like a unique Blinkist or Coles Notes version of the content I take in, like a highlight reel, so that you can hopefully find some other interesting podcasts you may not have considered before. I've recorded the specific episode podcast titles and episode numbers in the show notes, which are only a click or swipe away for your learning convenience. I've also started to put together a Spotify playlist of each of the episodes so that you can also take a listen to those specifically, and the link to that playlist is in the show notes. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And if you enjoyed this podcast and its format, share it with someone else. You can also follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Brian Carr, BRYONCAR, or at Fresh Air at 5. Tweet about your experience or give it a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fresh Air at 5 can be found on the Educational Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. I hope you have a fantastic day. Get some fresh air before the day is out and take care of yourself because you are worth it.